Okay, hello, this is Akram Tepper. Today I'll be doing a presentation on vulnerability assessment that I've done over my own server. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Alright, so as you can see, I posted two images of a nmap scan of my state of my server, and pretty much I have everything configured the way I needed to have it configured. So we're gonna move on. And this is, by the way, this is the Windows server scan and Linux server scan. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to next. Okay, so I've also done a Greenbone scan, and I've downloaded the report, and I've done the paper, and now we're gonna be discussing the vulnerabilities that were found after we done the Greenbone scan. Okay, so basically, there's been four main vulnerabilities that has been found after conducting the Greenbone scan. We found out that the main three vulnerabilities, were given a medium risk CVS score of 4.3, and we're going to discuss at the end of this presentation about the scoring method and system that the Greenbone scan uses. So out of the four vulnerabilities, three vulnerabilities were given medium risk, and one of them is given a low risk according to the Greenbow scan, and we don't have any high risk, which is a good thing. So we only have three medium risk and one low risk vulnerability. Okay, next. So this is one of the medium categorized risks, HTTPC. The Greenpoint report has identified a vulnerability in the Windows system related to the way they accept SSL/TLS cipher suit for secure web browsing, also known as HTTPS, over port 443. This vulnerability makes it possible for attackers to intercept and read confidential information transmitted between the client and the server. The specific vulnerable cipher suit is called TLS underscore RSA underscore with underscore 3DS underscore EDE, so on, or also known as Suite 32, which is a type of encryption that uses a 64-bit blocker cipher. This type of encryption is vulnerable to a known attack called Suite 32, which takes advantage of the fact that 64-bit blocker cipher have a limited number of possible values, making it easier for attacker to decrypt the data. This vulnerability is considered moderate in terms of risk, as we have stated earlier, as attacker need to have access to the network traffic between the client and the server to exploit it. So if they can't do that, they can't get into your system. However, it is still important to address this vulnerability to ensure that sensitive information remains protected. Okay, so this is going into details about the solution on how you could mitigate the vulnerability identified in the Windows Server for port 443 or TCP. To disable the Suite 32 cipher suit on Windows Server for port 443 TCP, you can follow the following steps, and I've listed all the steps that you need to do in order to disable this cipher suit. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next slide. Okay, so the next thing we'll be discussing for vulnerability is SMTP. So this have two vulnerabilities, but it's still counted as one because it's still for SMTP. Okay, regardless, the vulnerability within SMTP, which is rated medium risk, there's technically two vulnerabilities that need to be addressed to ensure the security and integrity of the system. The first vulnerability involves checking if the mail server responds to verify and expand requests. These commands can be used by attackers to gather sensitive information about email address on a target host, which could lead to a social engineering attack or gain access to sensitive information. This vulnerability can expose confidential information and lead to a further attack on the system. The second vulnerability involves SSL TLS weak ciphersuit, which uses outdated and insecure cryptographic algorithms. The attacker could exploit this vulnerability to intercept and read sensitive information transmitted between the client and the server. This could potentially expose the confidential information such as login credential, personal data, financial information, leading to further attacks or data breaches. Failure to address these vulnerabilities could result in significant damage to organization, including the loss of sensitive information, financial loss, and damage to organization. Okay, I just repeated this. It is essential to take necessary steps to mitigate these vulnerabilities and ensure that the systems are adequate, protected against any potential attacks. All right, next slide. To mitigate, this is discussing the solution. To mitigate the vulnerability of mail server responding to verify expand requests, it is recommended to disable these commands and use a mechanism like finger or HTTP to publish this type of information regularly. Reviewing and updating the mail server configuration also help identify the mitigate vulnerabilities. To mitigate the vulnerability of SSL and TLS weak ciphersuit, it is recommended to change the configuration of the service to only accept strong ciphersuit. Strong cipher uses modern encryption algorithm and secure key exchange algorithm. Modify the configuration file for the service that uses SSL/TLS such as Apache or Maxim, and ensure only strong ciphersuit are listed. Organization must take a proactive approach to address the vulnerabilities and implement appropriate security measures to ensure system security integrity. Regularly reviewing and updating security measures is crucial to staying protected against new and emerging threats. Okay, database. This is that's the medium risk. Okay, database or PostgreSQL. The Greenbone report has identified a vulnerability on port 5432 TCP related to the acceptance of weak SSL or TLS access, specifically cipher suit TLS Suite 32, which we discussed earlier. For the other vulnerabilities, is considered the weak as it is a 64-bit blocker cipher which is vulnerable to the attacker to exploit. Vulnerability to intercept and read sensitive transmitted between the client and server such as login credential, personal data, and financially leading to further attack of data breaches. A lot of these are sharing the same vulnerabilities, by the way, so that's why it seems repetitive. Okay, the severity of this vulnerability is also medium with a CVS score of 4.3. To ensure the security and integrity of the system, it is essential to address the vulnerability prompts and prevent potential attacks that could harm the organization by disabling weak cipher suits and configuring the system to accept only strong cipher suit. Organization can mitigate this vulnerability and improve system security. Okay, solution to mitigate the risk of identified vulnerability. The organization should configure SSL and TLS settings to only allow strong ciphers that are not vulnerable to attacks such as AES or triple DBS. For a PostgreSQL database server, updating the PostgreSQL.config file by modifying the SSL Cipher Direct to include only strong cipher suits. After updating the configuration files, restart the PostgreSQL service. Regularly monitoring and updating the SSL and TLS configuration of the service is crucial to ensure it remains secure against evolving threats. This ensures that the weak cipher suit like SP32 are disabled and the system is protected for potential attack. Strong cipher suit uses large block size and more robust encryption algorithm, making them more resistant to attacks and improving system security. Next slide. Alright, this is discussing the low risk vulnerability, which is TCP timestamp. The identified vulnerability in the implementation of the TCP timestamp on a remote host poses a low risk to the system security. While the feature itself is not harmful, it can be used to determine the age of the system and potentially identify vulnerability. Additionally, it can be exploited to perform a DOS attack. While the severity is low, it is important to address this vulnerability to minimize potential risk and ensure that integrity and availability of the system. Organizations should implement comprehensive security strategies that include addressing all vulnerabilities, no matter their severity level, and to ensure system security. All right, next. Now we're moving on to the solution for the TCP timestamp. To mitigate the risk associated with the TCP timestamp vulnerability on Linux system, organization can disable the TCP timestamp by adding the following code and executing system control -p. Disabling the timestamp helps prevent the calculation of the system uptime and reduces the risk of potential attacks. Regularly reviewing and updating system security measures such as firewalls and intrusion detection system is also crucial to ensure that the system remains secure against evolving threats. Additionally, keeping software up to date with the latest security patch is also important. By taking a proactive steps to secure system, organization can help protect against potential attacks and maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability of critical information. Okay, now we will be discussing the Greenbone ranking system. Greenbone report ranks vulnerability based on the severity using the common vulnerability scoring system, which considers factors such as ease of exploitation, impact on the system, and level of access required to exploit the vulnerability. The identified vulnerability on port 5432 TCP, which is the PostgreSQL, involving weak SSL and TLS cipher suit has a medium level severity with a score CVSS score of 4.3. Higher score indicate higher severity level with a score of 9.0 or above considered critical and requiring immediate action. The Greenborn report identifies vulnerability with varying severity levels, highlighting the importance of primarily addressing vulnerabilities to mitigate potential risk and protect system security. Okay, and this is the reference page. Okay, this concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening. All right, have a nice semester.